Hi, I'm Brittney Saunders,
Oh, yeah.
and welcome to Big Business.
Hi, I'm Brittney Saunders. Let's just leave that in there. You can do the intro. Welcome back to Big Business, and today you have landed in one of my bonus episodes. Calling in sick for work and feeling guilty about it. We're just getting straight into it,
Yeah,
Xander.
we are.
I've had two questions come through my DMs on Big Business podcast recently.
By the way, it is producer Xander here, not just some random bloke jumping on the pod.
I've just got some random guy in here with me today.
We've just had a pie. We're a bit,
Silly.
yeah, we're a bit silly.
Yeah, silly, goofy mood. So I got a couple of questions. Taking a sick day. When I take one, I feel so anxious. And this is fairly common for some friends. Would be interesting to hear from a boss your perspective. And I had someone ask the exact same question. Why do me and my friends feel guilt when I call in sick? This is a weird phenomenon, isn't it?
Have you ever not come in for work at Fate because you've been sick?
That's a good question, because I think the mentality that you have when you are a business owner is I have no time for fucking sick days. And like that's my mentality. I don't think I've I couldn't tell you the last time I didn't go to work because I was sick, but
I could.
oh, me
2 weeks ago, actually, yeah.
Yeah, that was different. That was for the podcast. That was different. But actually having a sick day of Fate, like I think the last time it would have been when it was in COVID times and I had COVID and I was knocked out for a little bit there. But weirdly enough, I don't know how much of this is a thing, but if you ask like any of my staff, they will say Brittney's never sick and neither is AJ. But I'm like, do we think ourselves out of getting sick because we just know we can't kind of thing?
Yeah. I would say like because I did casual work for like over a decade, I have been so conditioned now to try and push through and just work while I'm sick because that was the only. I'd lose the money though. Then I wouldn't get paid.
I wonder if any of this stems from like childhood and school. Like, did we learn this? So, like, I know for a fact that everyone feels bad when they call in sick. What's funny is, from my perspective of being a boss, if I was to have a day off and not go into work and not talk to anyone, I would feel guilty as the boss. So even when you're a boss, I'm only speaking from me. We post these videos on TikTok, by the way, like our little podcast videos, and I love how twisted people get my words and think, oh, not me, no. Like, I'm only ever speaking from my point of view.
Yeah.
I can't speak on behalf of every boss out there. Some bosses might take a sick day and go, I don't give a fuck. But for me, if I was to have a sick day, I would feel so guilty. Like I'm not there, you know, and I'm not working with everyone.
I always used to feel like it was quite an inconvenience for me not to be there. I don't know if that means I think I'm the absolute booze news.
Oh, like you feel like you're letting down the business if you don't go to work. Yeah, like I just wonder where this mentality stems from in the first place, because why do people feel bad when they call in sick and don't go to work for a day? Maybe it's because their boss kind of shuns them for that.
Yeah.
Maybe people have come from experience where they're calling in sick and their boss is on the other end saying, well, are you sure? Like you can't just come in, like we really need you kind of thing, or you're letting the team down. Maybe it's been passed down through that, through trauma of bosses guilt tripping staff around having sick days.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing to discuss when bosses are like, oh, can you not just push through and come in?
I would never say that.
Because we've just had this new legislation come through that's protecting people's right to disconnect after work and not have to answer calls or texts from their employers.
Yeah, and not getting in trouble for that.
And not getting in trouble for it.
Yes.
Should there be another legislation that's protecting people from being pressured to come in?
To go in, yeah.
Because that still happens. I hear all the time people are like, oh, I'm unwell, but like they really want me to come in and do this shift. You're actually putting your business and your employees at risk wanting someone who is unwell to come in and do a shift.
Oh, and I think that's changed a lot as well since the COVID times. Now I think we are more conscious of people coming in if they are a little bit sick or if they just want to come in anyway and they come in and they're like snotty and coughing. Like, I think since COVID, I've been like, go home. Like, you know, even if like I feel fine, I'm just stuffy. I'm like, go home. Like you're actually sick.
If there is a sniffle in the office, I'm
like,
literally
go
like,
home.
go home.
I don't know why people feel guilty calling in sick. And I would say for any of my staff working for me, I would hope that they wouldn't feel guilty, but I think it's this natural guilt that we feel the same way I would feel guilty if I had a day off because I've been sick. But I'm telling you now, touch wood, I never get sick. You watch, I'm going to get sick after this, Xander. I think it just sucks that there are business owners and bosses out there who do shame their team for having a day off, or their employee for having a day off. For example, one of our girls in the office called in sick this morning. She messaged me at like 6:30 this morning. I just double tapped it, gave her a little heart, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like there is nothing more than that.
It's funny you say that because I think if one of my bosses just double tapped and liked that I was sick, I'd feel like it was a little bit passive aggressive.
Oh no, like I'm just giving her a little heart, and it was 6:30 in the morning, so I don't want to like start up a conversation kind of thing.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Like my thing's like, I'm giving you a heart, that is so fine. Like I'm not going to friggin' sometimes I write back and be like, no worries at all kind
it's
of
like
thing.
when someone gives you like just a thumbs up emoji
I'm
and you're
not
like,
doing
and you're like,
up.
wow.
I gave her a heart. She also messaged like another person as well.
Yeah.
Like I'm not the only person. It's because her boss is currently away.
Yeah.
So she's messaged me and said, wasn't sure if I was supposed to message you kind of thing. But I'm always like, don't stress. I'll tell you another thing that I'll tell you a pet peeve of mine. People apologising when they don't need to.
I have actually been trying not to do this. Even in emails now when I send them, I used to be apologies, yada, yada, yada. I'm trying to remove that and reframe the way that I'm speaking to someone because I feel like it makes me look more confident in my role. It makes me feel like I'm not an inconvenience.
That's one of my pet peeves, and I notice it in staff. For example, if someone is sick and they're like, I'm so sorry, like they're apologising, and I couldn't care less if someone's having a sick day at all. Like I'll literally just be like, no worries at all. Like you don't have to over-explain yourself or why you're sick. Like they could literally just say to me, I'm sick today and I'm not coming in. That's so fine. I'm not going to be like, I need an explanation and you need to tell me why and are you sure you can't come in? Like never. But I've found that staff as well, and just us as humans, we apologise for everything. Like I'm so sorry to, and why are you saying sorry? I remember when our general manager, she's like off on maternity leave now, but obviously throughout her pregnancy, she would have like all these appointments and everything, which by the way, Xander, someone said to me after we spoke about like us and the way we pay our staff, people are like, someone said like, so how do you pay maternity leave then?
With maternity leave.
I know.
Yeah, with mat leave.
People are weird. Yes, fate pays people maternity leave and super and all the things. Okay?
Yeah, you got to remember, like you sign a full-time contract.
Yeah.
But you just paid differently.
Yeah. Anyway, Em obviously was having all these appointments all the time, like during her pregnancy and in the lead up to her going on mat leave. And she would apologise profusely every time. I'm so sorry to be having this appointment again. And I'm like, Em, stop fucking apologising to me. It's actually annoying that you think you have to say sorry instead, like, because they might think I'm getting annoyed by all the appointments when I'm not at all. I'm actually annoyed that you feel like you have to apologise for it. But again, is this coming from bosses in the past that have made her feel guilty for having a day off or going to an appointment or whatever it may be? Where does this all stem from?
I think, and I'll give you an example. So I applied for a job last year, and in that job description, it said, because you know how they give you what the key jobs of the role is, and then it also gives you kind of like the extra benefits that kind of come along with the job. It could be like an extra day off every 6 months or whatever it is.
Yep.
In this particular description, it said unlimited mental health days. And I was like, oh my God, that can't be real. And so I asked the guy and he was like, no, it's true. Like you can have a mental health day whenever you want and you get paid.
Yep.
And I was like, wow. Now, I didn't end up getting hired there because they ended up not even having the role existing anymore.
Yeah.
But I was like, immediately in my mind, I was like, I want to work here because I feel safe.
Yes.
And I'm not going to feel guilty or like I'm an inconvenience to them if I do need to take a day.
Yeah.
And especially with mental health in business, I feel like that's something that people feel even more guilty about because it's not something that you can see physically on someone, and it's not something you can be like, oh, you look so unwell. It's a completely different ball game.
Yep. I encourage everyone out there to not feel guilty for having a day off, whether it is sickness or if it's, something to do with your mental health. And I know it's so like riddled in society that you feel guilty calling in sick. And I don't, someone's asking like, why do we feel guilty? I have no idea. It's like in our human nature. I don't know if it comes from when we used to have a day off school and we would feel bad.
I think it comes from because grind culture's out. Like we're not about grind culture anymore.
Yeah.
I think it really comes from, it was so drilled into us in school about work, grind. That's the only way that you're going to be successful.
It takes me back attendance days. You know how you'd get your 3 monthly report and it would tell you how many days you had off? Like it,
or they gave someone an award
for good attendance,
never missing a day at school.
Like, is this where it comes from? But you can take it from me as a boss, and I know I can't speak on behalf of other bosses, but don't feel guilty at all calling in sick. You shouldn't have anxiety around calling in sick at all. Like, I don't care if someone's having a sick day, but again, I'm only speaking from me in my company. There might be some bosses out there who treat people horribly if they do call in sick or make them feel bad about it or guilt trip them to come in. But again, I feel like this podcast is turning into like an advocate for employees' rights, but know your power and rights in a workplace. If you have a boss that is guilt tripping you for calling in sick, do something about it.
Yeah.
Go to the HR at your workplace if there is a HR in your workplace, or speak to your boss directly about it.
Or get out of there.
Yes, or get another job, because you should not be feeling that way. You should not be profusely apologizing for being sick. You should not be feeling scared to call in sick. You shouldn't be having a sick day at home and feeling bad that you're not at work. And if your boss or whoever is making you feel bad about that, do something about it. Like, stand up for yourself. And like, it fills me with rage, Xander, knowing that people are treated poorly in workplaces.
To be quite honest, like, if the business is going to fall apart because you're having a sick day, well, then the business structure isn't very good.
They need to figure that out. But honestly, stand up for yourselves. Like, ever since we've opened up this conversation about this whole new legislation and disconnecting, like, it's just opened up the floodgates for me. And I've obviously gotten hundreds of messages from people and their horror stories with their bosses, but it doesn't have to be that way. I'm sick of people feeling like their boss is just like dangling their role over their head and like taking power over them. No, take your power back. Like, you are powerful in your workplace, even if your boss is an asshole. Like, this fills me with rage. I honestly feel like I want to join Parliament in like the sector that looks after employees' well-being.
Well, maybe we should do this more. If anyone is listening and you have certain scenarios at work that you think are unfair and not right, write into us. We'll go onto the Big Business Instagram page.
Yeah, send us a DM.
Send us a DM, and Britt, it will try and address the issue.
I want to be a voice
Empower
for the people.
You. Yeah.
Like, honestly, all you employees out there, like, you have power in your workplace.
Yeah.
Even if your boss overpowers you and tries to belittle you, that's illegal.
If you're feeling backed in a corner, like you have no rights, like you have nowhere else to turn to us and, well, not me, I don't own a business. I'm just going to be here for the bands. But turn to Britt Saunders on Big Business and she will empower you and give you that encouragement you need.
Look, I feel like we haven't answered the question at all in this episode. Why do people feel guilty? The answer is we don't know.
Yeah.
But my answer is no one should feel guilty. Even I shouldn't feel guilty if I have a day off, but I absolutely do. But it's just riddled in us, like in human nature.
Yeah.
But I can't speak for your boss, but no, for me, people have sick days because we get sick and we're humans, and that's so fine. And you earn your sick days, especially if you are a full-timer and you've got those sick days to use up. Don't feel guilty about using them. And also don't overly apologize if you are sick, because like, it just happens. Like, that's life. We get sick. You shouldn't feel guilty about it at all, whether it is like a physical sickness or mental health, whatever it may be. If you just feel like absolute shit, you're entitled to having a day off, and you shouldn't feel guilty about that in the slightest. And fuck you to all the bosses out there who make people feel bad about that.
I loved that monologue.
Done.